On today's episode, you'll be getting an in-depth walkthrough of, without a doubt, my favorite exhibit at Tacoma's Point Defiance Zoo, the Rocky Shores. And you'll see why, believe me, it's good. But before we do anything, if you are new and like getting free virtual visits to zoos, consider pressing those sub and bell buttons to officially join our zoo crew. Then I want all of you to comment below realistically, what rare zoo animal would you like to see and or are planning to see in the near future? On the last episode, we did something really special. We had 2 episodes in one. We did walkthroughs of the zoo's tropical reef and Pacific Seas aquariums, and the latter's current moves us right along from the ocean depths to the shores. The Rocky Shores opened in 1982, and other than a small 2017 renovation, from what I've seen from old photos, it hasn't changed much, and I don't mean that in a bad way. What you're about to see is a collection of 4 mammals and 3 kinds of birds that live up and down North America's Pacific coastline in 4 different habitats. Starting with the Pacific walruses, a Point Defiance icon since these shores opened, as evidenced by the statue that's dedicated to E.T. at the zoo's entrance, a walrus that debuted with the exhibit in the 80s. This is gonna sound a little silly, but I was really nervous when I came over here. I mean, it's not like I haven't seen Andy Reid's kind before, but to exaggerate, it's almost a miracle that Belzic and Lakina are here, because once you lose walruses, in this case lose a pair to breeding recommendations like the zoo did in 2020, it's almost impossible to get the species back. Fortunately, as their keeper put it, the aquarium in Quebec that took care of them, quote unquote, didn't want to take care of them anymore. So thankfully, the half-siblings moved to Washington in late 2022. And what's really cool is they understand training commands in both English and French. We all know what a walrus is. They're a fairly famous animal, but they're also one of the rarest zoo animals. As of 2024, only 4 places in America host this giant pinniped. So if you're in the US and want to see a walrus, get to any one of these reputable locations before it's too late. For maximum viewing opportunities, I recommend right here, because it's the only one that doesn't make you watch them through glass. That is if you don't count SeaWorld Orlando's show. Netting isn't exactly ideal either, but they're also not picky eaters, and you can't trust visitors to hold on to their phones, maps, children, so I get it. Safety first. That'll take us from Alaskan waters to the mainland US's west coast. But I want us to put a bookmark on this exhibit for now because we will be back. That won't be the only time we do that. I really hate to do it, but it's for a good reason. Purely for editing purposes, actually. So take in what you can of the pretty birds for now because we'll come back to them. The lower level of the Rocky Shores was one of the highlights throughout my entire visit, even if the underwater view to the walruses was blocked off at the time. I really tried to emphasize that a good exhibit needs good education, and this is the, I guess you could say, best mini museum I've ever seen. Skeletal features, beautiful murals, regular signage with actual animal parts next to actual animals. What you're looking at is the pool that we skipped above, home to California sea lions and harbor seals. Their exhibit just doesn't look like it was built for pinnipeds, other than the small amphitheater that was added later. That one makes sense. Which, by the way, I did actually make it over here for the keeper chat, expecting to see some sort of presentation, obviously. All we got was a keeper pushing a plastic float with a hose, which I guess was pretty entertaining too. Anyways, the pool is deeper than what I'm used to seeing. There's not a whole lot of land area, and though it's not unique, there's not a lot of sea lion exhibits that use glass for above ground level barriers. To get to the point, it doesn't look like it was built for them because originally it was built for belugas, one of the last species you'd ever expect to find in a zoo. In fact, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this was the last traditional zoo in America that had belugas. The zoo housed a total of 10 of these bulbous-headed whales from the mid-80s to 2009. Not at the same time, of course. And one of them, who some of you might know, was Beethoven, who should be on the Shed Aquarium episode in the corner of your screen. This was obviously a smart change. The belugas needed more space, and sea lions in this area are always in the need for rescuing. I just wish, though, that they kept the natural look of the exhibit. Oh well. Going down below, there's a 4th underwater viewing, but guess what? So I've been wanting to make a short, or a long video, whatever, on animals that usually receive subpar exhibits from my own experience. Well, near the top of that list would be seabirds, that are not penguins, just to be specific. They're usually cramped, behind glass that needs a squeegee, they're inside and don't have any natural substrate. So this was really wonderful to see. I think this was the first time I've ever seen anything like this for puffins and the common murre. It has multiple layers. You got the underwater viewing, ground level view of course that lets you get super close to the birds, and a sea cliff with grass and nesting burrows. And the best part is that it's in the great outdoors, and obviously since they are cold tolerant, the birds can be outside all year round. The last stop, you guys are gonna like this. The best way to end any exhibit is with sea otters. Can we just take a moment to appreciate how great this lineup of animals is? There really isn't anything like it. Speaking of rescues, Point Defiance's sea otters were given a second chance after life in the wild didn't treat them so well. Some were abandoned by their mothers, rehabilitated from oil spills, and I believe most of them are deemed unreleasable by the US Fish and Wildlife Service. I've been wanting to bring something up for a while, because I hear the comments in person, I see them online, and maybe even some of you wonder, why does nearly every sea otter exhibit have very little land versus other otter exhibits? And here's an example. As we saw in our time at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, you can find them at most within a mile of the shore, but they can live exclusively in the ocean. They'll just float like this together in the hundreds and even the thousands. They eat, sleep, and even raise pups while they act like a raft on the surface. But they might come to land to avoid a storm or predator every now and then. Oh, and as you can see right here, they really just don't move as gracefully on land as they do at sea. And that was our tour of the rocky shores, and where I will leave you all for now. Like I said in my full Point Defiance breakdown, this exhibit is kind of showing its age just a little. All the cement kind of gives it an abandoned bunker look, but for a project that's over 40 years old and still holds up this good, you can't really complain, and I trust that the zoo will make improvements at some point. A lot of the rocky shores was based on Arctic waters, and the next time that you hear from me, we will move into the Arctic tundra and the finale to our tours through the Point Defiance Zoo. So as always, please stay tuned for the next episode. Stay wild, and thank you all for watching Zoo Tours.